bloody Pride Month, and I can dress for the occasion. Hi, my name is Hannah and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're so well and I hope you're ready to talk about some books. Lots and lots of releases, some hyped books that I keep seeing and thinking, oh my god, why haven't I read that yet? I've compiled a list today of every book that I want to read super badly in 2025. Yes, this concept, this video, this idea, it's a little bit late. We're halfway through the year. But in my defense, my sort of like ride or die, have to read or cannot function era of my life, it did only really sort of like catapult in January. So it's well on time for me. And we're going to do it. This year so far, I think I've read maybe like 38 books, and that number just keeps going up and up and up. I'm reading more and more books every month, so I can absolutely get to these books if I can get my hands on them and prioritise well. So essentially, this is going to hold me accountable to be reading books that I know I absolutely want to read. And yeah, that's just sort of the vibe. Shall we just get talking about some books? You'll be happy to know that I have split up today's categories. So we have lots of fantasy romance, we have some romance, we have thrillers. We also have a little bit of a general fiction section that has some historical fiction and a few different other things. But where should we start? Should we start with romance? Okay, let's do that. Do you know what is alarming? I have 25 books listed here and I only own probably like 9 of them. So maybe we should do a little vlog of me trying to find all of these books, get my hands on them, get them on the TBR so that we're set up for the year. I've just had that idea right now and I can always get behind book shopping, so maybe that's coming. Anyway, let's get into it. The first on my physical TBR book that I know I want to get to and I've been putting off strategically because it's not been the right time of year is The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore. And I hear that this can be just pure trash if you want to see it that way, but it is just such a beautiful cover, and I have to show you, like, this has like some foiled bits in it and it's just super stunning. And I just feel like at the right time of year, when the leaves start falling and it's just beautiful, which is also my favourite time of year, this will just hit. And I've kept it even though it's gone out of season because I definitely want to get to it in autumn this year. So that is book number 1. Book number 2 is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams, and I have recently gone purposefully out of my way to try and find this book because all of my favourite YouTubers like Lexi and Sydney, and there was someone else that's been talking about it. They make me want to read it, and obviously it is now June. It's currently June, and I love a romance that hits super hard, and it just seems to be a little bit of a consensus that this book is a must read. So I'm really excited to get to this. It's not on this month's TBR, but I have just added it on because there's no better time for me to read this because it's bloody June. My third and fourth romance want to read in 2025 go hand in hand as they're by the same author. And we have Funny Story by Emily Henry and also Book Lovers. And these are the 2 Emily Henry books that I want to get to as soon as possible. Of course, there's been this hype and sort of like resurrection of Emily Henry talk with the launch of Great Big Beautiful Life, but I see people love these 2 books, specifically Funny Story, and I am just so envious of America for having the alternative covers to these because they just don't hit as hard, whereas the American covers just look stunning to me. I would love to own those. But this is what we have. I've just heard so many great things about these 2 books, and the only Emily Henry book that I have read is Happy Place. But I read it like 4 years ago, and my reading taste back then was so different. So there is a possibility that I will get back to that. But I just know I want to read these 2, and that's why they're on my physical TBR, because I need them to stare at me in the face and be like, read me, so that I'll pick them up. I put these as 1. No cheating today. Moving on to some books that I don't actually own yet, but I do have an eye out for. we have Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone, and I'm going to be totally real with you. The reason why I want to read this is because the cover is stunning. I want to own that book. I want it in my hands, I want to look at it, and I want to admire it because why is it so gorgeous? I've also seen that the book itself sort of centers around some grief and not necessarily finding yourself, but recovering from grief and trying to live your life to the fullest. And I'm all about that. I feel like every girl in their mid-20s is probably thinking, do you know what? Yeah, we need some inspo to be living our lives to the fullest. So that is book number 4. And book number 5 is not book number 5, it's actually a series, the Windy City series by Liz Tomford. And I want to read this because not only is it obviously quite hyped on TikTok and BookTube, but I really enjoy contemporary romance, but I feel like I've just moved away from series when it comes to contemporary romance, and I've been reading mostly standalone books, but I kind of just want to get back into it. I want to be within a new universe. I don't know enough about those books, but what I do know is I love the covers and I want to read them. That sort of wraps up our romance section of my 2025 books. The 25 books I want to read in 2025. Should we just move on? Okay. Moving on to my other category. The first book that I have on this list is The Husbands by Holly Gramazio. I think you would say that this categorises as general fiction. It is about a woman who comes home one day, I think, and there's a random guy in her house, and she is like, what on earth is going on? Essentially, he's telling her that they're married and that they have this whole life together, and she's like, come again? Anyway, this guy goes into the attic, and sometime later, another guy comes down. Not the same guy, and we have this concept where our main female character is able to meet all of these men and see all of these scenarios that her life could be or could have turned out as. I'm not 100% sure, but that's the general premise. I have seen some booktubers recommend this, and I just really like the concept. I like something that's a little bit sort of like out there in terms of concept and specifically dystopian, which this doesn't really fit into, but it's just interesting enough for me to be like, I really want to read this. And I've been meaning to read it for at least a couple of months, so it's on this list because I will get to it. I will. I just need to be in the mood. Moving on to book number 7, we have The Ministry of Time. I have obviously got most of these recommendations from people that I love to watch and talk about books. This one comes from Sydney, I believe. So the blurb says, a civil servant is offered a lucrative job in a mysterious new government ministry gathering expats from across history to test whether time travel is feasible. I believe that this sort of warps into a little bit of a romance. It just seems like it will hit, and the reviews are really good. So this is book number 7, something that I, similarly to The Husbands, that I want to get to super soon because I'm just itching to be sort of like touched by a book like this, and I can't really explain that any more than that's how I feel. Book number 8 is another general fiction, and that book is The Wedding People. Who is it by? Alison Esbach. The reason that I want to read this, kind of similarly to Promise Me Sunshine, is that we have sort of like a meaning of life element to it and making the most out of your life. And it sounds so cliche and so cheesy, but I kind of just love when reading gives you a little bit of an oomph to enjoy what you have and love the little things in life. The Wedding People, I believe, is about a woman who wants to end her life. So there's a big trigger warning element to this book. Because it talks a lot about suicide, I believe. She goes to a specific place thinking that that's where she wants to end her life, and it turns out that she is the only person within this venue that is not there for a wedding. She ends up meeting the bride, and the bride is like, absolutely not, you're not doing that, and the book just sort of unfolds from there. I haven't actually physically read the blurb of this book, but that's what I've gathered from what people say and what people have talked about when I've seen it online. I just think that that sounds fun, and I also love the cover. I think it's stunning, so that has made it onto this list, and I really want to get to that, but I don't think I've seen it actually in any of the bookshops that I've been into, but need to keep an eye out. Definitely want to read that. The final book I have within this category is actually a historical fiction, and it is The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. I don't actually know what this book is about, but I do know that it's one of her most highly rated books, and I have The Four Winds on my physical TBR, but my sister keeps telling me that I need to get to The Great Alone. I do, however, want to be really specific and get like a specific cover of this book. So I'm kind of just sort of waiting out, and I might have to sort of like order it from America or something. But yeah, I don't know what this book's about, but what I do know is that Kristen Hanna always hits, and I know I'm gonna love it, and I just need it. And I also love her historical fiction, and I could really do with you guys telling me other historical fiction authors that I should be reading, because I feel like she's taking up all my historical fiction space, but I'm sure there's more authors out there that I need to be reading from, so let me know what they are, please. Moving on to thrillers. I already have one of these on my physical TBR, and that book is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. I feel like you kind of have to have been living under a rock to not have seen or heard of this series. I found it in a charity shop, and I think it cost me probably around £1. So I thought, do you know what? I should probably try this, because if it's so well known and sort of widely appreciated, I want to be in on the hype. And then after I bought it, I kept on seeing people read it, and all of my favourite YouTubers and BOOKTOKers, they were picking it up and just telling me that it's great. And I've even seen people reread this because they love it so much. And yeah, I just sort of want to be in on that. And I did almost pick it up the other day, actually. So, you know, the time for me to read this is coming, and it's coming up. But I believe we have an elderly group of people in a retirement village that start to investigate unsolved murders. And if that just doesn't sound like the most wholesome thing you've ever heard, then you're lying. My next two books are recommendations from Beth Morvan, who I keep talking about on this channel, but I just love her. She's so sweet, and she reads majority thriller horror sort of books. If she reads them and loves them, I know that I can trust her judgment. The first sort of like duo of books that I want to pick up based on her recommendations is The One by John Mars and also The Passengers. These books in particular have a little bit of a dystopian future element to them. Like I say, I just kind of like those sort of odd concepts, and I trust Beth's recommendations with my whole heart. So that is technically one book. I've put those together for this video because I'm not cheating. My final thriller want to read on this list is Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. I'm going to be so real with you, I do not know what this book is about, but the reason why I've put it on this list is because I know it sort of teeters on the sort of like heavy, darker thriller horror vibe. I actually can't think of a single 5-star thriller that I've read, so I think maybe I need to go a little bit darker. I might regret that, but that's the plan, and I believe that that is what that book will deliver. It's time. Let's talk about the tons of books that I want to read in 2025 within the fantasy and romantasy genre. First up, we have the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy by Stephanie Garber. I just like happened upon this trilogy within Waterstones one day, and I was like, why does that look like a fairy tale? It's bright pink and I love it. I love the way that that looks. I read the blurb and I was super intrigued, but I hadn't heard anyone talk about it, so I decided not to pick it up. I discovered that you might have to read the Caraval trilogy before that, and I don't want to do that. So I think when I do get to the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, it's going to be with a clean slate without reading Caraval. But you guys need to tell me if that's a mistake. So that is our first book / trilogy within this genre that I want to read. Actually, shall we just get to the physical books that I actually own? I have The Crimson Moth by Kristen Ciccarelli. I love this cover for a start, which is why I actually picked it up when I saw it, because it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was actually like high up on my agenda when it was just The Crimson Moth, but I think when Rebel Witch came out, that just sort of like went crazy, and people love that book even more than they liked this one. So I've put that on there because it sounds like a really, really great slow burn enemies to lovers, and slow burn is my jam. I love that. So this is absolutely up there. The next book that I want to read in 2025 is Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. Do you know what? This is chunkier than I thought it would be. I actually found this in the works. It was like £4, and I thought, do you know what? I've had this on my Kindle, sitting on Kindle Unlimited for too long. If I buy the physical book, I'm more likely to read it. And it's true. Don't ask me, that is just the way that this works. I know that I want to read this, and you know what? It's been a really long time since I've read Trials. So yeah, it's coming soon. I will be reading this soon. I also love the cover for Enchantra. So yeah, this is on the list. When I tell you that we have so many more books to discuss and I don't own any of them, My bank account is screaming. Next up, we have Quicksilver by Callie Hart. I think that a lot of people really liked it during like the initial release, but then I started seeing mixed reviews and I wasn't sure, and I just don't like to be persuaded by all of the hype around a book. I just think if I want to read it, I'll get to it, and I don't really buy stuff at the point of release unless I'm already invested. I will get to that, and maybe I'll love it, maybe I won't, but I don't think I can just go by without reading it. I need to know. The next book could be like my number one on this list because I am absolutely obsessed with this series. My next book that I know I want to read this year and I will read on release day is The Wrath of the Fallen by Amber V. Nicole, and this is the fourth book in the Gods and Monsters series. You will have heard of the Book of Asriel, and I love this series. There's 3 books out at the minute. I've currently read 2. I'm trying not to rush into book 3 because I don't want to wait until October for the next release. But when I tell you, I love the absolute chaos that is the Gods and Monsters series. If you have it on your shelves and you haven't picked it up yet, I would say go do it because it's just a ride. It's a good time. And I really, really enjoy it. And also, it's on Kindle Unlimited. I now have the first 3 books on their way to me. I need to physically possess them because I love them. Will absolutely be reading that this year, and I will be reading it the minute it is released. I can't wait. I want to read Heavenly Bodies. I specifically want that really cute, pretty Fairy Loot edition that I've seen that Emmy has, but we can't always have what we want. This is another one that, off the top of my head, I don't think I actually know in detail what it's about, but I do know that it had a lot of hype at the time. I also know that it's stunning. Every cover I've seen for that book is beautiful, and I do want to read it. But yeah, not really sure what it's about. Every time I like scroll through my want to read list and I think, what do I actually want to get to? I see Heavenly Bodies and I'm like, yeah, I want to read that. And then I don't. So it's on this list to keep me accountable. Next up, we have a standalone fantasy, which is so rare, isn't it? We just dive into series left, right, and centre within this community. The next book is Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. I know that I need to get to this soon. It's just the perfect sort of like scenario where I can pick up a fantasy knowing that I'm not starting a new series, and I've seen so many great reviews on this book, so I do want to get to it ASAP, and I'm just struggling to find it at the minute, and I don't like to order my books from Amazon, so I'm just trying my hardest to find it, and hopefully I will get to it within the next couple of months because I'm just itching to find out what all the hype's about. Ooh, I forgot that I own this. I didn't forget, but I didn't put it in my stack. We have Our Infinite Fates by Laura Stephen, which again is gorgeous. It is beautiful, but I particularly saw Laura Home read this, and she was sobbing on the internet reading this book. And sometimes that's just what you need. And it was enough for me to be like, yeah, I think I want to get to that. And then I found it for an absolute bargain price with this beautiful sprayed edge, and I thought, it's time. Turns out it wasn't time, and I've now owned it for at least 2 months and haven't read it. This book has I don't even know if you'd call it a trope, but we have this idea that our 2 main characters meet each other in every lifetime, fall in love, and end up killing each other as well in every life. It just sounds like chaos, and I can understand why that would be a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. It is on June's TBR. I picked this as part of my monthly TBR this month, so I'm hoping to get to it soon. And do you know what? Sometimes I just love reading a hardback. I love my Kindle and I love a paperback, but sometimes a hardback just hits. So yeah, I'm really excited to pick this up, and I hope that I love it. I have such high hopes, which can be so dangerous. So I just need to relax and just read it. I just need to relax and just read it. Next up, I am mid-series with this particular book. I've just put the whole series in this list, and that is Throne of Glass. I'm going to be so real with you. I haven't loved any of the books that I've read so far in the series. I am up to Heir of Fire, which means I've read Assassin's Blade, Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, and Heir of Fire. 4 books in, and I'm just not invested. I do want to read it, and I'm also just foreseeing the tandem read and just thinking, I don't need that in my life. It is on this list because I want to love it, and I don't want to DNF the series because it's such a favourite for so many people, but it's just mad because I found with ACOTAR that I was hooked from like 300 pages into book one. When I tell you, I have read maybe 1,000 pages of the Throne of Glass series and I'm just not invested, and I want to be so badly, and I want to get to the really great stuff, but I just think that it's interesting to me that it's such an all-time favorite for some people when I just don't vibe with what I've read so far. I'm slowly working my way through it, but I'm just trying not to pressure myself. My next want to read this year is A Tribute of Fire by, I believe it's Soraya Wilson. I have seen Emmy recommend this book, and particularly the second book in the series. I don't know what it's about, but every time I open my Kindle TBR, I'm like, I want to read that. So we'll see. It'll happen, maybe, eventually. My final fantasy romance sort of want to read is a vampire romance with a little bit of mystery, and I have vlogged myself reading this, I think. I read the first in the series, which was Vain and Vow. This is by, I believe, is it Nicola or Nicole Jacqueline? I ended up really liking it, and I cannot wait for the next book to come out. I believe it's due out in August, so I have my eye out. And when that releases, I will be continuing, because even though I think the first 200 pages were a little bit trash, I'm invested. I need to know what is coming next in that series and in that world. Really great time. A vampire romance that has sort of like straight away you dive in with fated mates, and it's all just a little bit chaotic. And if you want an easy read that actually keeps you engaged, it's a good time. If you're not a spicy girly, you might not like it. I had to skim a lot of the spice, but everything else outside of the direct spicy scenes, it was a good time, and I would absolutely recommend. Can't wait for book 2 to be released. I don't even know if we have a title yet, but yeah, very excited about that one. It's also on Kindle Unlimited, so a little KU recommendation for you. So there we have it. Those are all of the books, and the 25 books, should I say, that I want to read in 2025. These are just sort of like my most anticipated and the books that I know I want to get to, and I'm super excited, and I wanted to do this just sort of like hold myself accountable to get round to the books that I know I actually want to pick up when I'm picking my TBRs for the months. I just think there's so many books released all the time that I don't want to let these ones slip, because I do absolutely want to read them. I just need to get round to it and not get distracted by all of the outside noise. Please let me know if you have read any of these books, and if you're like, yes, absolutely, get to that book right now. Or if you've read any of these books and you think, do you know what, that could be a skip, maybe pick up something else instead. I want to know your guys' thoughts and what you guys absolutely want to read in 2025. Even though I have all these books, I still want recommendations, because I am focusing on quality this year. I want to read my favourite books, and I know everyone wants to do that, but I am on like a DNF train at the minute. If I'm feeling 2.53 star, I'm considering DNFing. Yeah, like that's where we're at. So yeah, we're going for favourite books this year, and I would love some more recommendations. So please let me know in the comments if there's anything that you think based on these recommendations and what you can see on my shelves. If you think I love it, let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a good time. Happy Pride Month to all, and please just like and subscribe. Please just do that. Thank you, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.
Found my truth, my rainbow light. Out to the world, share my pride. No